the 30-year-old from Prosper, Texas, which, by the way, has a population of 30,000.
Did you hear that? Rick Allen mentioned Prosper, Texas on national television. That's right, Prosper, Texas, which, if you did not know, has a population of 30,000 people. That is right. Prosper, Texas's own Chris Buescher once again got a win. It was his third career win, his second with RFK. Of course, last year winning the Bristol night race. This year, his win is more significant, though, because the Bristol night race is a crown jewel, so, that's pretty significant. I'm not downplaying that. But this one locks Chris Buescher into the NASCAR playoffs for the second time in his career. Of course, if you remember back in 2016, won a fog-shortened race at Pocono, and that locked him into the playoffs. Well, today at Richmond, he was like over 110 points above the playoffs coming into this thing. I think it was a 111. Well, this win, it locks him in. Like, if he wasn't locked in before, the win obviously locks him in now. But a very impressive performance by Buescher, a very impressive performance by RFK. RFK's like, they've been really good this year. There's no question about it. Roush Fenway Racing from 2015 to 2021, maybe 2020, they struggled. It was a big struggle. 2014 is when they started to lose guys, or 2013 really. 2013 was their first year without Matt Kenseth. 2014 was their last year with Carl Edwards. Greg Biffle left at the end of 2016, I think. And then they had Trevor Bayne and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And with those two, they only picked up 2 wins. And it was at super speedways, Daytona and Talladega, both coming in 2017. Then they started subbing Matt Kenseth in the 6 car, and he would alternate with Trevor Bayne. Ricky Stenhouse got replaced by Chris Buescher. It was a struggle for a good bit. But then at the end of 2021 came around, and Brad Keselowski is joining the team. Keselowski, who had won a Cup championship with Team Penske as a driver, decided he wanted to join Roush Fenway Racing, not just as a driver, but as a co-owner. And since then, it has been a success for the organization. Last year, Keselowski as a driver struggled. He missed the playoffs. He finished 20th to 25th in points. It was a struggle of a year. But Chris Buescher took a big step forward. He was running extremely well at short tracks and road courses. Both cars were running well at super speedways, and Chris Buescher proved it by winning the Bristol night race. Well, then we come to 2023. Both cars being extremely consistent at majority of tracks, whether it be short tracks, super speedways, intermediates. They're running like 8th to 15th consistently, sometimes better. And it has once again shown. They were both coming into this race over 100 points in the good to make the playoffs. Keselowski won a stage. Keselowski led 70, 80 laps. He led a good chunk of laps. And then Chris Buescher took the lead from Brad Keselowski on one of the final green flag pit stops. And he led a good chunk of laps as well. He led the last 60 or so after Keselowski had a mistake on pit road. It was his own mistake. But Buescher was able to hold on. It looked like he was going to win this thing by 7 or 8 seconds. Then Daniel Suarez and someone else, I think it was Noah Gragson, made contact and decided to spin. So it was a 3-lap shootout. And, of course, NASCAR, late race restart, short track. You never know what can go wrong. People just dive bomb you. They'll wreck you. You got Denny Hamlin next to you after last week. Oh, you never know what's going to happen. Chris Buescher ran away and won the race for Prosper, Texas. He won the race. But on a serious note, this is a huge win for RFK. Their second win since Keselowski has been an owner. Keselowski still yet to win in the number 6 car, but still, today could have been his day. I think you could argue. I think he's going to be a little bit upset as a driver, but as an owner, he's going to be nothing but happy. Both cars had winning speed. One of the cars went to victory lane. I think as a team owner, he is extremely happy. And, yeah, great run for RFK, great run for Chris Buescher. Locks him into the playoffs, and there were some big playoff implications today. Michael McDowell did not run well today. We saw Bubba Wallace gain a ton of stage points. I think he finished in the top 10. Oh, he finished 12th. That last restart kind of screwed him. But Bubba Wallace making big gains in terms of the points. Ty Gibbs with a solid run, ended up 15th, but he gained some stage points, ran top 10 most of the day. We'll talk about him in the finishing results, but it's getting to crunch time in the playoffs. If you did not know, 4 races to go after today. But this is usually where it gets a little bit chaotic, and this is really the last couple of normal races here, because Richmond is a short track, a normal oval. Michigan, an intermediate oval. But then after that, 2 road courses and a super speedway. So these are the races you have to take advantage of to make gains on. And some guys did, some guys didn't. We didn't see that much drama today. Richmond, usually a strategic race now. Just the racing has not been as exciting as it used to be at Richmond. So it's really been more of a strategy game. Only 1 natural caution all day, and it came with like 8 to go. So, I mean, Richmond, just not as much action as it used to have. I mean, I thought the racing was all right. Nothing terrible, nothing great. But it was the strategy aspect that made it exciting, just like the races here last year and earlier in the spring. And that was the 2-stop versus 1-stop. Are you going to make 2 stops in a stage? Are you going to make 1 stop? How are you going to play it out? The majority of people going for 2-stoppers. Some guys like Martin Truex Jr., I think Christopher Bell, maybe. Some other guys going for a 1-stopper, trying to maybe catch a caution at the right time. Some guys made it work, some guys didn't. We will go through them in the finishing results. But yes, Richmond is more of a strategy track now, which is kind of crazy, kind of wild. But yeah, it was an all right race. But it got exciting there at the end with that caution. But I enjoyed the race personally. But yeah, let's go to the results. We'll talk about the results here. Chris Buescher, Prosper, Texas' own, gets himself a win today at Richmond. His 3rd career win, as I said. Locks him into the playoffs, pending post-race inspection. But a big win for him, big win for RFK. We've talked about it a little bit here. But to take that 17 car that had so much history with Roush, to take that car back to victory lane yet again, making it his own in a sense now, to put it back in victory lane, to lock himself in the playoffs is huge. This is the first time Roush has been in the playoffs since 2017 when Stenhouse picked up those wins. So it's huge. And it's like, I'm not trying to talk down what Stenhouse did in 2017, but this is a little bit more on merit, I want to say. Stenhouse, don't get me wrong, those wins were impressive, but they were on super speedways, and that team wasn't going to point their way into the into the playoffs that year. Whereas this year, Buescher, they've been consistently in the points. They've been consistently way above the playoff cutoff line. Like, it's not a surprise to see them win. It's not a surprise to see them in the playoffs with the way they've been performing this year. A well-deserved win, a well-deserved playoff spot. 2nd place, Denny Hamlin, top 5 most of the day. Him and Larson got into it again today, but it was more on Larson's end. Larson was on that 1-stop strategy. Hamlin was on older tires. Larson was unlapping himself and decided to use the bumper to get Hamlin out of the way. Talked about how he would race Hamlin different now, and he opted to do just that, but nothing extreme. It didn't affect any other days. Obviously, Hamlin still ended up finishing 2nd. 3rd place, Kyle Busch, up and down day, started 2nd, ran great for parts of the race and didn't run great others. Ran good in the first part of stage 1, but then fell out of the top 10, was in and out of the top 10, but then had a really good final stint, was up inside the top 6 or 7, and then the last caution came out, everyone pitted. Kyle Busch had a really good pit stop, restarted 4th, and was able to get up to 3rd there at the end. Joey Logano qualified terrible, was like in the mid-20s, maybe back 20s, made his way through the field, had a solid yet quiet day. Where did he come from? I don't know, but he finished 4th. Somehow, 4th for Logano. 5th place, Ryan Preece. What a run for him. Top 5, top 10, almost the entire day. Scored stage points. Looked like he might be a contender at some point. We know that he's good at short tracks, but I did not expect him to do this today. SHR struggled as a whole this year, but the short tracks have been their strength. Martinsville, all of them were in the top 10 at some point. They really should have won Martinsville, but they kind of threw it away. They ran well at New Hampshire, I think. Harvick led a bunch of laps at Phoenix. Almirola ran great at New Hampshire. So the short tracks are really SHR's strength right now, and I think they got to take advantage of that. Obviously, they kind of missed the opportunity in the regular season, but when it comes to the playoffs, rolling momentum into next year or focusing on Harvick, whatever it is in his playoff run, Martinsville, is that in Bristol? I think they really got to focus on that as a helicopter flies by. I think they really got to focus on those short tracks in the playoffs because those are their best tracks. But Ryan Preece drove a fantastic race today. Don't quite think he was good enough for the win, but a top 5. I think that's his first top 5, maybe even top 10 of the year. It's been a struggle for him, but a great result for him. 6th place, Brad Keselowski. What could have been? Brad Keselowski, the team owner, thrilled, excited. The driver, infuriated, probably would punch a wall if he wasn't the car owner of the winner. He was leading there at the end prior to the last pit stop and kind of missed his box. Like, he slid it in way too late, was parked at a terrible angle, awkward angle, and the pit stop was long. He had to take extra time to get out of the pit stall, dropped back to 6th or 7th place, made a couple of those spots up back, and then on the last restart ends up 6th. It's got to happen eventually. He's going to win with RFK at some point. But, man, this was a really good opportunity for him. You look at the Daytona 500 in 2022. He's run well at some other super speedways, some other short tracks. I think Martinsville last fall, he was top 5, maybe competing for the win at the end. But this might have been his best opportunity. Had one of the best cars all day, won a stage, top 3 to 5 all day, was in control of that race going into the final green flag pit stops. But he himself, it wasn't a pit crew mistake. The car didn't fall off the jack. They didn't miss a lug or the lug. He missed his pit stall. So I think that one's got to sting for Brad Keselowski a bit. But once again, a solid finish. In terms of points, he's doing fine. He's got to go for a win at this point. He doesn't have to, but, they're so safe in the points position. They can afford to stay out with 2 to go and get spun out. They'd still be fine. But Brad Keselowski, I think that one's going to sting a little bit. 7th place, Martin Truex Jr., a disaster start to the day. He started in the top 10, got bumped out of the way. Lap 1 was running in the 20s. Decided to change up the strategy call with that one stopper, and as everyone else just plummeted to the back, Truex saved enough tire, was able to get stage points in stage 2, and stayed in the top 10 essentially the rest of the race just with the way the strategy was playing. He ends up 7th, and that's huge because I thought he was going to finish in the 20s, lose the regular season championship lead, and no. He finishes 7th, and with those stage points, I think he might have extended his regular season championship lead because Byron and Hendrick as a whole struggled today. So Martin Truex Jr., what looked like it was going to be a disaster of a day, ends up extending his regular season championship lead, I believe. 8th place, Aric Almirola, as I just said with Ryan Preece. SHR, good day overall today. Almirola had a penalty early in this thing. I think he could have been contending for the win, at worst a top 5. But that penalty early on, was it commitment cone or speeding, something, went a lap down, was able to rally back, finishes in the top 10. I think today was what could have been for Almirola as well, just like I said with Keselowski. You don't have that penalty, I think you could be looking at a top 5 at worst. Almirola is really good at the short tracks for some reason. You look at New Hampshire, you look at Richmond, Martinsville. I don't know what it is about these style tracks, what it is about SHR, but this seems to be his style. And once again, it was the team at New Hampshire that threw it away for him. Today, it was him that threw it away for him. Regardless, still a really good result for him. 9th place, Austin Dillon, solid run for him. RCR's been struggling on the short tracks this year, so for both of them to be in the top 10, solid day for him. 10th place, Kevin Harvick. Don't expect anything less. I think they said he had 30 top 10s, so this would have been his 31st top 10 at Richmond in his final appearance. That's crazy. 31 top 10s at a single track in his career. Good run for Harvick. He's well in on points. We'll look at the point standings later. 11th, Chase Briscoe. All 4 SHR cars in the top 11. Fantastic day for them. 12th place, Bubba Wallace dominated the early stages of this race. Got 16, 17 stage points. Was looking really good. Was fading there at the end of the race, and then that last restart just fell back to 12th. But top 10 the entire race. Led 70 or so laps. Looked really good throughout the day. If they could just finish off the race a little bit better, I think they'd be fine. But huge gains in terms of the points for the bubble situation that they're in. I think they got a great shot winning next week at Michigan. Chase Elliott, 13th, was top 5 in the first stage, and then just slowly, kind of like Bubba Wallace, fell back. Finished just outside the top 10 in stage 2. Was back up in the top 10 for a good chunk of stage 3, but then after the final pit stops was 13th, 14th, and then ends up 13th. Ryan Blaney 14th, 15th Ty Gibbs. Got a few stage points today, I think 3. Top 10 for a good chunk of the day, but ends up 15th. We'll see how the points play out. 16th Tyler Reddick, just like Brad Keselowski, just like Eric Almirola. Top 5 the entire race. Led a bunch of laps, won stage 1. He led 90-something laps. But a pit road penalty. He missed the commitment line and ran over the box on that final green flag pit stop. He ended up going backwards, went a lap down, was able to get that lap back under the caution, I believe, and finish 16th. But that should have been a top 5 day for them. Really good car, really fast. He made a mistake. So I don't know if he could have won. Maybe. I think he could have if he had the opportunity on that last restart, but 16th for Reddick. 17th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 18th, Alex Bowman. No stage points, 18th. He's trending the wrong direction. It might be must-win territory for Alex Bowman. 19th, Kyle Larson, irrelevant all day, the winner of the spring race. A little bit surprising there. 20th, Christopher Bell had multiple issues all day, started at the back, made his way back up, had a pit road penalty, had other issues. 20th. 21st, William Byron kind of just fell off a cliff. Was 7th there in the first stage and then disappeared. 22nd, Michael McDowell for his point scenario. Not a great day for him. No stage points, 22nd. Eric Jones, Ross Chastain, Todd Gilliland, Austin Cindric, AJ Allmendinger opted not to practice and qualify so that he could run in the Xfinity race. 27th. Quite the strategy. 28th, Noah Gragson. 29th, Ryan Newman. 30th, Justin Haley. 31st, Harrison Burton. 32nd, Corey LaJoie. 33rd, Daniel Suarez. Spun out late there. Awful day for Daniel Suarez. Was 17, 18 points behind entering this race. It's got to be more than 30 now. Just a couple weeks ago, he was only 1 point behind the cutoff line, and it has been a disaster. Spun out late in this one and ends up in 33rd. 34th, Ty Dillon. 35th, J.J. Haley. 36th, B.J. McLeod. Every car finished this race. Well done, NASCAR field. Everyone finished. But let me pull up the point standings, and we will talk about NASCAR playoffs. All right, here you go. So you got your winners. Chris Buescher is now in that winner category. He is locked into the playoffs. After that, we got Kevin Harvick and Brad Keselowski. Basically got to sleep through the next few races and have a bunch of other guys just go absolutely crazy. Other than that, Harvick and Keselowski, unless there's a bunch of new winners that are full-time. You know, if SVG wins again, he's not full-time. But they're safe. I would say they're safe. After that, you got Bubba Wallace, made huge gains today, gaining stage points, finishing 12th. He ends up now 54 points above the cutoff line. That is almost an entire race. And with next week being Michigan, a track that he is excellent at, I expect him to extend that gap, maybe even do what Chris Buescher did today and win. Michael McDowell essentially stayed the same, gained 1 point on the playoff line, I believe. I think he was plus 17 entering today. Now he's plus 18. Somehow gained a point. Ty Gibbs is now the next guy up. He was about 25 to 30, I think, entering this race. And now he is only 18 behind, gained a few stage points, finished in the top 15. AJ Allmendinger loses about 5 points. He's 22 behind. Daniel Suarez loses a good chunk of points. He's 34 behind. And then next in line, Chase Elliott, now minus 40, entered the day 54 points below the cutoff line. 40 behind now. As I said, those stage points early on really helped him, but if he wants to point his way in, it might come down to those road courses. He's going to have to get a top 10 at Michigan next week, and then I think he's really going to have to do top 5, top 3 at those road courses. But it's going to be interesting these next few races. We got Michigan next, then we got 2 road courses and Daytona. Those last 3 races will be wild cards. So next week at Michigan, really the last, not real race, but the last normal race, I guess. But Chris Buescher from Prosper, Texas, wins today's race at Richmond. Thank you for watching this video. Like, subscribe, share. Hope you guys like the new background. I told you I'd get it up by the race today. I got the Prosper, Texas hat on for Chris Buescher himself. Once again, hope you enjoy this video. I'll see you guys. Whatever news comes up, may do a playoff bubble update, more in-depth kind of thing. But have a great rest of your day.